Are you a finance leader in a startup or scale up, and already you are dreading the day that someone in your small finance team hands in their resignation? Well, if you do, you have key person risk. And today I'm going to go through the 4 steps that you can implement now to help mitigate against that key person risk. Hi, my name's Alysha Randall, and I am a fractional CFO for Fast Growth Consulting. And I also train new and aspiring finance leaders like yourself who work in startups and scale ups. If you are a finance leader in a startup or scale up, or you want to be, then please hit subscribe. These are the topics I talk about on how you can be a really strong leader and support your founder in their startup and scale up. So today, as I mentioned, I'm going to go through 4 steps that you can do to mitigate against key person risk. So this is when you have crucial members in your team, and if they were to ever leave, they would really destabilize your operations. So you may have lengthy notice periods within your contracts. I don't find that these are useful because often if somebody really wants to leave, they may try and negotiate these times down. And also, if they're on more than 1 month, they're not really adding too much value. They're not very motivated. Often they're not particularly happy. So you really want them to leave once they've acted in their resignation. But appreciate that sometimes you do put in those lengthy notice periods because it is going to take time to find somebody. I've personally worked on 6-month notice periods before. I did absolutely try to negotiate my way out of it, and I can tell you by the end I wasn't very useful. So just keep that in mind when you are looking to put in notice periods. I appreciate in some countries lengthy notice periods are just not an option. Here in the UK and in Europe they're quite common. But I know in the US, for example, somebody can hand in their resignation and be gone within 2 weeks. So it's definitely more relevant in those scenarios. So one area that I really look at is to mitigate. So one area that you can really mitigate against key person risk is developing a succession plan. So whether that's, you can hope for the best, but plan for the worst. So whether that is, if there's just the 2 of you or there's 3 of you, who is going to take over whose role when somebody leaves? So sometimes that might be yourself. So you should definitely train up the person below you over time so that if they want the role also, or if you leave, then there is somebody that can take over a lot of elements of the tasks. But similarly with the more junior members, you should as a leader always understand where all the junior members want to be in their career, what their next steps are. So in general, as a leader, you should always help with that mentoring, help with that career development, but always also keep in mind who potentially could step up to whose role within the team. And if you do that, if somebody has already learned elements of the role above them and you are preparing them to take over that role in the next couple of years, if the person above them does resign, it's not so much panic stations. You may either decide to accelerate their training and promote them quicker than what you had originally planned, but you have already started that development, and so it's less of a panic station, shall we say. Again, you may need to hire in, but at least if you've got a plan in place, sometimes this will work out for you. The second one is, which is a little bit similar, is cross-training and skills development. So particularly when you've got somebody that is really critical. And when I'm thinking about that, I have a couple of examples. One example that I'll go through is fintech. So if you have ever worked for a regulated entity before, you know that there are certain tasks that must be completed on a daily basis. And if you don't complete them, you are breaching your essential agreement with the regulator, and you could be in a lot of trouble. So if I have worked with a regulated entity before, and so all elements and all tasks that had to be completed on a daily basis, while we were still small and we had a really small FinOps team, quite a few people around the business knew how to do their role. Now, it may not necessarily be that this person, in the event that this person resigns, in actual fact, it may just be that this person goes on sick leave, this person goes for a holiday, this person perhaps goes on stress leave. So there's not just thinking about when someone resigns, you're thinking about when they're not available to do their role in the business. And so if you think about it from sick leave and holiday leave perspective, you can see that the key person risk is actually bigger and more severe than just if somebody hands in their resignation. So really make sure that critical parts of the finance function, there's at least 2, if not 3 people that can perform those tasks. And so if the person goes on sick leave, stress leave, holiday leave, or they decide to resign, these critical tasks will be done. The second one, and this is a tough one for startups and scale-ups, just because sometimes you're spending so much time firefighting, you don't have time to do documentation. But with the introduction of AI and being able to record things, it's a lot easier these days. So the third one is document processes and the internal knowledge. So often, again, if somebody leaves, goes on sick leave, holiday leave, what have you, you should always have those elements of the role that are really critical documented. Now, not only should they be documented because it is your internal finance policies, it's also you can work through the process and it's good as a training model, but actually it's also important that if somebody, again, is not available and someone has to jump in, then they do have the documentation to lean on. I would also encourage this, even if you have done cross-functional, cross-task training that I mentioned in item 2, largely because if you've been trained how to do something and then you have to do it 6 months later, you're probably not going to remember how to do it properly. So therefore, having the documentation in place will help not only if nobody knows how to do it, but also for the people that have been trained. So again, because recording videos, uploading videos into AI, getting AI to write the documentation for you or transcribe what has happened in the video, there is really no excuse anymore to not document these processes. AI can really help you do this, and it's actually quite quick. So the person that is doing these tasks, they just need to talk out loud, they just need to record themselves doing certain tasks, and then AI will do the rest for you. And then finally, building a robust finance team. So you want to make sure that you do have complementary people within the department. You don't want to keep hiring mini-me's, as I like to call it. For those of you who aren't as old as me, may not know what I'm talking about. But ideally, you don't want to just hire people that are just like you and just younger, more inexperienced versions of you. You do want to have a robust team, and then lots of different skill sets, strengths and weaknesses are within the team. And therefore, you're able to support each other. So managing key person risk is really a delicate balancing act. So you really do need to make sure that you empower individuals so that they have responsibility and ownership of their role and of their tasks. But at the same time, you want to make sure that key person risk doesn't disrupt your operations or slow down the momentum. So there are a few things that you can do to help mitigate this and that I've mentioned just now. But it's probably the first step is identifying where that key person risk is. And by doing that, you can look at what are all the tasks that everyone's are doing, what are the roles and responsibilities of each person in your team, and then have a look at where that key person risk is, probably starting from the more critical and then down to the important but less critical. And then you can be proactive and address these issues and in preparation. So this is all part of being a leader, planning the longer term, not just fighting fires, is a key part of the leadership role. And actually, if you're thinking about the Eisenhower matrix, which I have spoken about before and I'll leave links for, if you're thinking about the Eisenhower matrix, the things that are really important but not critical, that's the area that you should really be spending most of your time as a finance leader. And here is a perfect example of something that you could be doing when you've reserved some time for that critical thinking and planning, is mitigating the risk of key person within the finance function. Now, obviously, key person risk isn't siloed to finance. It is a big risk across the company. So once you have started the process within finance, it's probably worthwhile having a conversation with your business partners and the rest of the leadership team about the key person risks within their department and helping them mitigate against that risk. Because yes, you may be able to mitigate against the risk within finance, but really the commercial and perhaps quite particularly operational key person risk can really disrupt the business, customers, and even revenue. So make sure that as a business, the key person risks have been mitigated against. Okay, so that is the 4 steps that you need to go through to mitigate against this particular risk. I do have plenty of free resources that you can download. One in particular is how to be a CFO within a startup or scale up. It gives you tips on how to demonstrate your leadership skills so that you can be a strong leader within a startup or scale up. If you're interested in this guide, then please download from the link below, and you'll be able to access that today. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.